Kick off the new year with great deals at the Jeep Start Something New sales event. Well-qualified returning FCA lessees can lease the 2020 Grand Cherokee Laredo E4x2 for $309 a month for 42 months with $2,999 due at signing. No security deposit required. Tax, title, license extra. Call 1-888-925-JEEP for details. Requires data contribution. Lease a Chrysler Capital. Lessee is responsible for termination fees. Current lease must end by 2/1/2021. Extra charge for miles over 35,000. Residency restrictions apply. Take delivery by 2/3/2020. Jeep is a registered trademark.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits! Everybody loves Hippo Toes! Scary Dog! Listen at Blurnsville!
Futurama!
Good evening. This is TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is The Mandalorian, brought to you by the good people at Lucasfilm, Fairview Entertainment, Gollum Creations, and Disney Media Distribution / Disney Plus. Mandalorian is a space western, yeehaw, created by Iron Man director and geek favorite Jon Favreau. It's a story of one of them dudes walking around in a Boba Fett outfit, and it was in no small part based on an old show you may have heard of, probably not, called Lone Wolf and Cub, which focuses on a samurai and his infant son. And over here, we got a Mandalorian and a Baby Yoda. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight from the good people at Star Wars. Joining me tonight to talk about this is a man who doesn't hate Star Wars and everything it ever produced, and has spent the last 10 minutes before we started recording tonight stroking me and petting me and making sure that I wasn't going to have some sort of conniption fit. Ladies and gentlemen, from our Canadian office, welcome him down from his Arctic tundra, where he's been ice fishing, walking around in tennis rackets strapped to his feet, and dancing with polar bears and penguins. Ladies and gentlemen, it's David Wright. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing okay, Mark. That was a bit too much information. This is a family show, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, hot or cold, I'm coming here, and apparently the climate has decided I'm going to be cold today.
Did I get that right? Penguins and polar bears, that's what's up near where you live?
I think penguins are more the South Pole, but I've got penguins at the zoo.
Geography, not my strong suit. All right. So let me ask you, they announced that they were going to do this Mandalorian series once Disney Plus was announced to be a thing. They said that, Lucasfilm said that between them and Disney, they wanted to start creating some of exclusive content for Disney Plus that was part of this, and they wanted to try to make as much of the Star Wars IP as they could. That's why we got a new trilogy, when we're getting these series on Disney Plus, and allegedly they've got an Old Republic film in the works. So what was your thought when they first announced a new standalone post-Return of the Jedi, pre-new prequel story about a Boba Fett? What did you think?
I thought it could be okay, and please, oh please, don't make this 8 episodes of just gushing about Boba Fett.
And then overall, before we get into the breakdown of this show, when it was over, when you'd seen all the episodes, what did you think? Were you pleasantly surprised? What were some of your thoughts?
Definitely going with pleasantly surprised on that one. I was kind of expecting it to be more of like an ensemble cast, sort of like a Firefly sort of thing, the bounty hunter and his, ragtag crew flying around the galaxy, doing jobs and having adventures, so on and so forth. And I wasn't quite expecting, like you said, more of a lone wolf or shogun assassin type storyline.
Gonna
Or
throw
just
in
like sort of little stories, bit by bit, just sort of, we're in this location doing this thing, now we're in this location doing this thing, with kind of like an overall sort of story in the background that pops up from time to time.
Gonna throw an idea at you. I mentioned
Sure.
this on another podcast, and it's been a subject of conversation with various people. When I'm calm and I'm not running the Star Wars franchise into the ground these days, I think Star Wars started out as an amalgamation of things George Lucas, and we've talked about this before, an amalgamation of things George Lucas grew up with in the 50s. Flash Gordon serials, the samurai story that the Hidden Fortress, things like that. The whole, the Heroes with 1,000 Faces, space, westerns, that sort of thing. He kind of put all these things in a blender and shot out this space fantasy that was essentially these known properties that were dressed in this new world that he was creating. And I've come to the opinion, I don't know what you think about this, but I think The Mandalorian is a really good example of the way Star Wars works best. Take the girders of a known, tried and true trope or theme and just dress it with Star Wars stuff. What do you think about that? Because I think that's why this works. I think the concept of the lone gunman / samurai and his sidekick child just traipsing about, getting into misadventures, is a story as old as time, but they just kind of threw some Star Wars paint on it, and voila, you made magic. What do you think?
Yes, overall, I think that's right. Like, I think the biggest problem I have with the sequel trilogy is I think that it was sort of too big for them to leave alone. I was listening to the Anime World Order podcast, and they had, I think, Tim Eldred was the guest. It was one of their interview episodes, and he sort of worked in TV animation for a few years, and he was talking about when they were doing the Spider-Man CG animated series right after the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out. So it was like a super hot property, mega box office success. It was the biggest thing in the world at the time. And he said, when you have a property like that, everybody wants to have their name on it. So you have every producer, every executive in the company that can weasel their way into the production will go in there, and just it's notes galore, and it's just kind of this big mess because it's just all these egos and crazy ideas all in one place. And then after a while, things settle down. It's not that big of a deal anymore. They all go away, and the people who actually know how to make a TV show meant to be watched by human beings get to get back to work and actually produce a decent story. And I think you sort of have that with the whole the sequel trilogy, and this is our big premiere epic conclusion to the Skywalker saga or whatever they want to call it, and it's just kind of turns into this big bland kind of mess where it just sort of turned into, hey, let's just make the original 3 movies again with all the major points of those films and not really take the franchise in any sort of different directions.
Well, I think that was the problem, and I don't want to get into a whole...
I mean, we're not here to review the sequel trilogies, but whereas now you have things like, Rogue One, which was basically the most expensive Star Wars fan film ever made.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, and it was good for that. I mean, I think you can only get away with that once or twice.
Sure.
But hey, that was there once, so, no problem. And it was just kind of let's just do the Dirty Dozen, but it's in Star Wars. And that worked. There was a plan to do a Zack Snyder sort of version of Seven Samurai, but with Jedi on some planet defending a village from the Empire. And again, great idea. That story works good with those characters, even though they actually did do basically a Seven Samurai episode for the Mandalorian. So yeah, I think just having these sort of smaller scale productions where they just sort of take aspects of the universe and flesh them out more, Solo, as much as it didn't do very well, I thought it was a great idea. Let's take this sort of smuggler underbelly, criminal underworld of the Star Wars universe, and let's explore it more and show what it's like. And the Mandalorian has basically done that, but with bounty hunting.
Yeah. Let me a quick word on Solo. Solo comes out before The Last Jedi. I think it does a lot better. I think it suffered from the fact that it was in the shadow of The Last Jedi, and there were still a lot of fans that were so angry about how Lucasfilm and Rian Johnson handled Luke Skywalker. They could have done a 2-hour Duel of the Fates, and people would have been like, it's the worst Star Wars thing ever, I don't want to go see it. Put some distance from The Last Jedi, and I think Solo does a lot better. Because, again, it was a Western in space.
It was released, 4 months after the Last Jedi, so, no cool down time there, basically. It should have been, a December release.
Or not that year.
Yeah.
Give things a chance to breathe. But when you spend $4 billion on an IP, and that's part of it, is I think there was a mad rush to get shit, into theaters to justify a $4 billion IP purchase. And they, and when you're like with anything, I think when there's no vision and and I've said all this before, but when there's no vision and you've just got the person in charge is just sort of delegating to other people. I'm like, go do a thing. It's fine. You'll be fine. And I think you can do that, but your vision of if kind of reminds me of a Family Guy episode. I just watched it recently. It's 3 directors all doing the same story. Peter gets fired, and they took Quentin Tarantino, Michael Bay, and I think it's Wes Anderson who does this, who are all going to have different visions. It's all the same story, but they all have different visions. They all have different perspectives. They all have different styles. So you got 3 different presentations, which works if you're doing a gag like that on Family Guy. It works if you're just doing a bunch of non-connected pictures, and you can absolutely invite all the directors you want and say, here's a thing, go. But if you don't want continuity and you don't care and you just want to maximize this IP, that's fine, and I actually say go for it. However, if you're trying to tell a story with continuity and trying to you're trying to go with a singular vision, boy, is that the worst plan ever.
Yeah, they kind of need to, I would say, take a step back from doing the big epic, political, this is what's happening galactic-wide stuff, and just have someone at the top who's sort of there to make sure that nobody steps on anyone else's toes. If you want to do a movie about, I don't know, how Boba Fett kills Darth Vader, after Empire Strikes Back, he's sorry guy, sounds like a good story, but it doesn't really work with with the overarching continuity here. Stuff like that, and then just just have a bunch of ideas of get some talented people, and say okay, what stories do you want to make? Oh, you want to make something about a bounty hunter, escorting around a baby Yoda, it's Lone Wolf and Cub. Sure, you bang out some scripts. Okay, that all looks good. Do that, or hey, Obi-Wan Kenobi goes off on adventures in while he's waiting for Luke to grow up. Sure, yeah, that could work.
And so that segues
Rose Tico, this series. Okay, I'm going to need to hear a bit more about that one, but
I'd like to hear that that it dies in pre-production. That's what I would like to hear.
What I want to see is a re-edit of the end of A New Hope where Luke's about to launch the torpedoes down the shaft to blow up the Death Star, and then she comes flying out in her speeder, knocks him off course, and then gets out of him in space and says no, this isn't the way. Love will make us win in the end, as Yavin just explodes behind him and the entire rebellion is destroyed.
I could totally. Go ahead. Sorry.
I have nothing at all against Kelly Marie Tran or anything like that, but it was just that was just incredibly dumb.
That's not her fault. That was written for her.
No,
she did her job as an actress, and I've never blamed her for that. I thought she was fine.
The character could have been good, just that moment just completely ruined it. Just oh man, you have no idea. I understand now why you were on the lower deck scrubbing kids or something, because clearly strategy is not your forte.
There was an agenda there that they decided needed to be needed to make its presence known, but it was utterly mishandled, and that was literally one of the worst things in that movie. Everyone's like, oh, Canto Bite. Canto Bite is fine. I got what they were doing with Canto Bight, and it never really bothered me, even though everyone calls it like a side fetch quest. It's it didn't irk me. That was one of the ones where I almost got up and walked out of the movie. I was like, this is dumb. But I want to look. Here's what I want to see in a Rose Tico. We really need to talk about the Mandalorian.
Yeah, we'll get there, folks. We'll get there. Sorry,
but
you're getting the end of the show before the main content here, guys.
Sure, exactly. If they would come to me and they were like, we need you to kind of storyboard a Rose Tico show. Rose Tico is a time traveler, and to every like major critical point in time, Rose Tico just slams into people and says, "Love will show us the way," and then takes off.
Yeah, we'll see how better that goes. That idea, or my idea of like casting Rowan Atkinson as in a Boba Fett series, where he's just like a bumbling fool that just everyone thinks is cool because his arm looks neat.
I don't care what you say, Chris Bailey. He's a costume. All right, I'm gonna get myself in trouble on Twitter like I did today. All you have to do
is like read all the comic books and all the novels, and then you'll realize just how amazing he was.
Yeah, none of which are canon now. So
and yet they complain that they have no source material.
That hurt.
Yeah. It's like, oh dear. You're either lying or stupid. Pick one.
Oh, Kathleen Kennedy, stop talking. And then Jon Favreau, Kevin Feige, and some other gal pushed her in the pool. Actually, Bob Iger pushed her in the pool. Anyway, the fucking Mandalorian.
Okay, yeah, here we go. Let's get to the Mandalorian.
Yeah, so here we are.
Sorry, everyone. This is the way.
So, this is a very tight show. It's 8 episodes, and it's literally, here's a guy doing a thing, and he comes across a baby, and the job is kill the baby, but he can't bring himself to do it because he's got kind of issues of his. Not only does he have a code that he lives by, but he's also got a history and some trauma of his own. He cannot bring himself to kill this child.
Oh, it's just so cute with his little Jedi robes and his little long ears and his little big beautiful eyes. He's adorable.
I'm really trying to not go off.
We're still on topic. We're still on Baby Yoda.
No, look. Okay.
Okay. I got one tangent here before your tangent. Have you seen the interview with what's her name? Ray actress Daisy Ridley on Jimmy Kimmel, where he asks her which is cuter, Porgs or Baby Yoda, and she throws those Porgs under the bus with no hesitation.
Nice.
Like, I want season 2 of The Mandalorian, a scene where Baby Yoda eats a Porg.
I've been calling for a movie or a television show where Boba Fett kills all the Ewoks forever now.
Yeah. And it's like all that marketing research, because they spent like a year figuring out the Porg, engineering every aspect of it to be like super weaponized cuteness, and then Jon Favreau just goes, "Hey, why not just like a Baby Yoda?" And the internet exploded, and it was glorious.
Okay. Let me address the Baby Yoda thing real quick.
The Baby Yoda in the room?
Yes. The thing is cute. It's supposed to be cute. To the degree at which its cuteness weighs upon our main character's heart and soul and conscience, I think it's more his own trauma as a child and the code that he lives by. But I'm sure, puppy dog eyes are a thing. We've seen it in like Looney Tunes cartoons where someone's about to kill Bugs Bunny, his eyes get all anime big, and like I can't do it, that sort of thing. Okay, that aside. For this show to work, the baby had to be cute, and I think I'm sure there was a variety of pictures and ideas that were being thrown about to maximize the effect. And these are not dumb people. It worked. It did exactly what it was meant to do. But can I just call a spade here that Baby Yoda is a nothing character? It's a plot device? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
Can we, people are like, oh my god, have you seen Baby? I've seen puppies before. They're very nice. Can we stop making a big fucking deal about this now? Suddenly, that became the whole point of the show, was Baby Yoda. It's like, it's not. It's a plot device. It's a thing that our character's life, the Mandalorian, his life gets turned upside down face because he's decided to not kill this child. And now we spend the next 6 or 7 episodes trying to figure out what he's going to do with the predicament that he got himself into. That's the fucking story here.
Pretty much, though, like, Baby Yoda does get a little bit of fleshing out, and I do mean a little bit, where we sort of see how the way that he interacts with the Mandalorian, and like especially in the episode where what's her face, the Republic shock trooper is arm wrestling him, and arm wrestling the Mandalorian, and Baby Yoda's just thinks that she's attacking him and just starts force choking her to try and it's like, hey, you mess with Mando, you get the Force Hando.
So, let me also talk about the other thing I wanted to mention about Baby Yoda. That's obviously not the child's name.
Yeah.
I know what the child's name is. Do you want to hear it?
No, I think I'll wait for the surprise. The show is good enough that I actually don't want spoilers.
Dave.
Yeah.
This is a gag. I need you to...
Oh, okay, fine.
Thanks. Hey, Dave.
Right.
I know what the child's name is. Take 2. I know what the child's name is. Do you want to hear it?
Okay, Mark, sure. I'm very curious as to what the child's name is. Whatever could it be?
The child's real name is Mary Sue.
What?
It's Mary. Look, everyone, and here's my point with this. And then we'll move on. I promise.
Okay.
So everyone from like the Midnight's Edge to every podcast and vlog and YouTube video that you can think of was like, raise a Mary Sue, raise a Mary. Jeff Harris, 411 Mania, raise a Mary Sue. Everyone, raise a Mary Sue. Robert Winfrey, raise a Mary Sue. And they say raise a Mary Sue because she instantly was good at using the Force without having had any training, which was different the way they portrayed it with Luke, who struggled with it and went through a whole parkour training thing on Dagobah and all of that. And he didn't instantly become a Jedi Master. This was a giant uphill struggle for him, as powerful as he was said to have been in the Force. But Rey comes along, and she's instantly able to defend herself with a lightsaber and call things to her. And as Andre from Midnight's Edge put it, she's the bestest ever. That's how she's portrayed. And so everyone says, well, she's a Mary Sue. This child, fairly, we're talking an infant here. This is the child that is maybe a year old in human
50
years.
50 years old. Yeah.
In human years?
Okay, you mean in Yoda years.
Sure.
Yeah,
This child is still an infant. This child has not been trained. How could it have been? It's barely in the walking phase of life. But meanwhile, this child, who is so strong in the Force that he can force choke, he or she or it. We want to make sure we are gender appropriate here. We don't know.
Yeah.
So Mary Sue can force choke people and can lift things and is already the bestest ever in using the Force. If Rey is a Mary Sue...
Yeah, don't forget Force healing.
Yes, and Force healing, which is a brand new and exciting thing.
Though it does get really tired after lifting heavy things.
Well, sure, it's an infant. So if Rey is the bestest ever, by the same logic, P equals Q, Baby Yoda must be also a Mary Sue. My presentation... Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, I am very much educated now, Mark. Thank you. Though wasn't it great when you had like the droid voiced by Richard Ayoade, or however it's pronounced? Sorry, though I'm sure he gets it all the time. Breaks into his little cubby hole and he's about to kill him, and Baby Yoda goes up to force something, and then his chest explodes, and Yoda kind of looks at his hands going, what the heck was that about? And then he just saw that the Mandalorian was behind him and just shot him through the chest.
That was good shit. What do you like?
Yeah.
Is that not a sound, logical explanation?
I would say it depends on more how it's developed. I get your point with, as far as we know, this kid has not had any training in the Force, so how can he use these abilities? Even though he does seem to struggle with them, though Rey did actually struggle with some of the Force stuff at the beginning. But again, that's another podcast.
I'm being a troll.
Okay.
I really don't. First of all, that was my issue, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but that was my argument against the whole Mary Sue thing. That's why I brought it up. You have no idea, and not to be too pedantic about this, but you have no idea how the Force works. It's a made-up thing that George Lucas came up with that he stole from Buddhism.
Yeah, well, I think it has something to do with midichlorians and wills, though those are
Shut the fuck up. So look, it's a fictional thing that a crazy person made up, and it changes depending on what the story needs. It's fine. I don't care that the child can do all of these things, and I don't, and it, I think everyone gives it a pass because it looks like a goddamn puppy, or a mugwai. But they all hated Rey because, and so yeah, there's all of that. But I'm gonna shut up here for a minute because I have been ranting for a while now.
I don't know. I think you should start like a YouTube channel with like a bunch of clickbait titles and headlines like that. Like you'll probably be set for life.
Yeah, good. And then I can do it at a desk, staring really close up to the camera, and I can have a bunch of comics and shit behind me.
Yeah, exactly. And figures and Funko Pops. You need lots of Funko Pops.
Yes, now we're talking.
Yes, to show that you are a true fan.
Right, and I can discuss a lot of toxic femininity.
Yep. There you go. I mean, I guess the industry's a little crowded, but you never know. I don't think anyone's done Baby Yoda is a Mary Sue. That's like fertile ground that you can plow. Plow that field, Mark. You plow it.
I'm going to slather that all over Twitter tonight when we're done. Just cover it in Mary Sue Yoda-ness. First 3 episodes.
Okay. Yeah, a.k.a. the pilot.
Yeah.
Or the TV movie starting the series, as it would be.
Okay, so this thing, we're meeting the Mandalorian. We meet Carl Weathers' character. We meet Baby Yoda. Then there's the immediate fallout of that in episode 2, chapter 2 rather, where they're. This is the one where
Jawas steal all his spaceship parts.
Yes, okay.
Which was hilarious. Jawas with subtitles. Who knew that they were just colossal dicks?
That's a great episode. Yeah, they're stuck on the planet that he was getting the kid from, and then his shit gets ripped off by Jawas, and so he's got to deal with all of that. And then I think in the third,
they do explode nice. That was so good.
And then in the third one, he tries to bring the kid back to collect his bounty, and that's when he realizes that he doesn't want to let the child suffer. So he ends up rescuing the child from the client, and then
Herzog.
Yeah, and that's really the first arc of this thing. Is those 3 episodes. So I'm going to take a deep breath here and ask you, what did you think of these first 3 episodes?
Again, early time, so you're kind of just trying to get oriented in the show. So I think it does a good job of introducing, I guess, was it Din Varro is his name. So it does a good job of sort of introducing him. You get a sense for who he is, a sort of no-nonsense, consummate professional, bounty hunter. And just strict professional all the way. It gives us a little bit more insight into the sort of Mandalorian culture that they're going with in this sort of honor-bound warrior ethos.
Very samurai.
And, like you say, they're just laying the foundations for this world. We see a bit about how the bounty hunting system works with these tags, which I guess I don't know are genetic tracking systems or something. But anyway, good enough. It fleshes it out a bit. I thought it was kind of neat to see that they've adopted the carbonite freezing as a way of keeping their quarry. Before you go ahead, at first I was like, well, wait a minute, that was only like a one-time thing that they used to capture Luke. But I sort of have this image of like, bounty hunters after that, like opening up like, Bounty Hunter Monthly magazine. It's like, is carbonite freezing the future of keeping your quarry safe and sound during long haul flights? Article by B. Fett.
Yeah.
So I sort of
had a very
like Boba Fett was like, hey, you know what? This works really good. Like you guys should try this. And then the industry just like starts making carbonite freezing systems for bounty hunters to use. Like, I'm like, okay, like with the timing of this, like I can buy that this has become a thing. Take that, Red Letter Media. Anyway,
I had a very similar thought about that because when I saw it, I was like, oh god, that is the sort of thing that Red Letter Media complained about, where. And they did it more with Solo than I think anything else, but there's always like a detail or a throwaway line from the original sequel that somebody ran fucking wild with.
It's like they're a bunch of nerds or something.
I'm talking about the people in Lucasfilm production.
Oh, okay, yeah, that too. Okay.
Or the people who write these like Wikipedia pages or these novelists and comic book writers. They took these 3 movies, in some cases just the one movie, just A New Hope, and dissected and deconstructed it, took little bits of pieces, and went in, like, the Marvel comic book series just takes it in all kinds of weird directions.
Hey, Corellians don't believe in statistics because Han Solo said, never tell me the odds.
That sort of thing. So, when I saw the Carbonite, I'm going to tell you right now, I like the series, I think it's well done. There were some eye-roll moments for me, and that was one of them. But I had a thought about that.
Okay.
So, we're in Jabba's palace. It's full of bounty hunters and slave traders and drug dealers, spice dealers, and...
Yeah, you could say it's a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
You could say that. Just a bunch of ne'er-do-wells hanging about. Well, Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia didn't kill all of them. Some of them got out of there. Some of them was just like, the whole place is exploding. Boba Fett just went into the pit of Carkoon. The Broad strangled Jabba the Hutt. I'm getting the fuck out of here. And they had to have gone to a saloon somewhere in the universe. You know, a bar, a diner, maybe the 50s diner. That was...
I applaud originality and creativity, but yeah, that one didn't work, George.
Hey, George, did you grow up in the 50s? You did? I didn't know. You know, so, like, let's just go with that for a second. Like, he goes, you know, like, Bosk or somebody. Just fucking... Yeah, he's in this, so why not? Bosk got out of Jabba's palace, and he orders the meatloaf and mashed potatoes from the 50s diner, and he's just like, you have no idea what I just saw. And he's, like, telling him about the whole thing. But then they go back apart. So they had a guy hanging up on the wall? Well, like, how was he hanging? Oh, he was, like, frozen in carbonite or something. Really? And, like, the word gets out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, you don't have to, like, make an episode detailing that. It's just having that little detail in there, and it's like, okay, yeah, like I can see how at this time in the universe that, yeah, maybe bounty hunters have just adopted that as a good way of, you know, like, keeping their quarry out of trouble and transport it safely.
I wish Shadows of the Empire was canon. I don't know if you've ever read it.
I've never read it. I played the video game, though. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they'll just start filming Star Wars Legends because money.
Sure. Or they'll retroactively, selectively
they'd be like, it's like, hey, this video game had a story and it was super popular and made a ton of money.
Right.
Well, what the heck? Let's just, create a separate film line to do, like, the original, extended universe stuff, and, nerds will pay big money to go see that.
I mean,
myself included.
It took place in the year that's between Empire and Jedi, so theoretically, if you wanted to do like an animated version of it or something, you could do that. Anyway, Shadows of the Empire. I wish they would do something with it, because that's an area where you really could take some of what, like the carbonite freezing or whatever, and be like, and this was sort of the net effect of that happening, was all of these other guys who sort of saw what happened, and there was this whole thing that happens with this other gangster, and they went all these in other directions. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, make sure in the description you mentioned this is like half Star Wars in general and maybe half talking about the Mandalorian.
Will do, sir.
Yeah.
I will just talk. TV party tonight, the Mandalorian, and all kinds of Star Wars ill shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us this far, folks.
Yeah. If you did meth before you listen to this, you're totally getting every detail of this podcast, or any other kind of upper.
Or if you just like Star Wars.
So, when we move into episode 2, that's where we're talking about this first arc here. Yeah. They really slow things down in that second chapter, which is nice, because I think, there's been sort of a frantic, almost anxiety about these last couple of Star Wars films, where everything is just, it's that joke about why does Tom Cruise run in every movie, and this one, these are not long episodes either. Some of these are around 20 to 30 minutes, but this was for the length of it, was a slow episode. It's literally just him dealing with the Jawas and them getting the best of him. So, immediately, he's not, super invulnerable. He's not Superman. He's not invulnerable. He's not kicking ass in every single scene. He can get his butt whooped.
Yeah, I mean, that he's good and he's competent, but he still finds himself in situations where, he's not the unstoppable badass where, he does get beat up from time to time, but he always bounces back. And that kind of makes you root for him even a little more and makes him feel more like a real character.
Yeah. And so we end up getting the Nick Nolte character. By the way, best of Nick Nolte's work in a very long time here. As the Ugnaught.
Yeah, he certainly spoke.
So our Mandalorian, goes to the Jawas, and Jawas like, "Hey, go get us an egg from the rhino from the rhino cave."
I was half expecting when he finally gave it to them, they'd be like, "Oh, we actually didn't want the egg. We just wanted to watch you getting your ass kicked because it was hilarious." Yeah,
they just throw the egg over their shoulder along with the lightsaber. So, episode 2, your thoughts?
It was kind of a bit lighter than the first episode because we did have almost child murder by droid. In that one. As a side note, IG-11, again, great idea. Everyone saw IG-88 in Empire Strikes Back, just this idea of a bounty hunter droid, and it's well, now let's expand what a bounty hunter droid is and how it works. And whilst keeping the original design, the way that it would just rotate its torso around and have 360-degree view of the battlefield and just shoot everything. Again, it just that used with modern technology, they kind of fleshed that one thing out and made it kind of this new, cool, and awesome thing. So they just took this little thing from the originals and kind of let's just flesh it out more. It doesn't have to be big and epic. Just make it neat, have fun with it.
Yeah, that's one of the strengths of the show, is you can tell the people doing it were really have an appreciation for Star Wars and its lore, and they took elements of it and let's play with it. Let's do different things with it. This comes across as a very competently, intelligently presentation of a kid playing with his action figures.
Yeah, well, probably a lot of these filmmakers, grew up on Star Wars. It was probably one of the things that really motivated them to get into film. So to, be able to play with those toys, on screen, they're gonna go wild and have fun with it.
Right. It's one of the benefits of not having this tied to something that it has to connect to something else. It's 5 years afterwards. It's in this long period of time where no one knows what happened. So you can kind of do anything you want. Don't kill the 3 major characters because they'll die later. And you can pretty much, but beyond that, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do. And so if you want to bring back IG-88 and tell, but his name is Steve in this one, and make it do all kinds of cool shit, you can do that. If you want to do a bounty hunter that looks like Boba Fett, but not make him a psychotic asshole, you can do that.
Yeah, well, on that note of taking IG-8 and making his name Steve, one thing that I really hate about prequels and side stories is seems to be this desire to just connect everything possible to the original work. So having it's IG-88. You remember him from Empire. It's no, it's just a bounty hunter droid. They made more than one, guys. It's like in Star Trek Discovery. Michael Burnham has to be Spock's adopted sister, and her stepfather is Sarek because these are names of characters from the original, and you like the original thing, so you like this too. It's why not just have her being adopted by a different Vulcan? Maybe he was friends with Sarek. Who knows? It doesn't have to be perfectly linked up to everything before. You can tell your own story in your own way using this universe.
We're taking a brief pause for the cause here to bring on another guest. the proprietor of Honeysuckle Rose Creations and my expert on all things animated. Ladies and gentlemen, good friend of the program, Alexis Hejna. How you doing, madam?
Slightly embarrassed for falling asleep for the first half of the show. I am truly sorry about that, guys. I need a nap.
You didn't miss much.
We're talking about the first 2 chapters here, and just kind of jump right in here with your thoughts about your expectations going into it and what you thought of these first 2 episodes.
Well, unfortunately, Baby Yoda was spoiled for me because I didn't get around to watching the first few episodes. If I remember correctly, they started while I was on the road, and I didn't get a chance to watch until I got back because I wanted to watch them with my husband. But it really did blow me away, the style of this. The fact that this was very simple, cut to the chase. This was not a heavy exposition-laden storyline, which what we've been seeing from Star Wars, unfortunately, in the films. Very stylistic, a great use of practical effects, easy on the CGI. You know, I'm sure as Star Wars fans, we can always appreciate that. Hell, I thought it was so interesting that you find out the bad guy from the first few episodes, played by Werner Herzog, I think is how it's pronounced, was actually the push to get Baby Yoda played by a puppet. Because originally they wanted it to be CGI, probably to save cost or something. And he was like, no, trust me, this needs to be a puppet.
You know, I think it works better as a puppet. I think you can do interesting things with a puppet that, if you look at, and I don't want to get off too much on a tangent here because God knows we've done enough of that tonight, but I think when you look at the prequel trilogy and you see, you know, a lot of the animated characters, now granted it was 20-odd years ago when did that, and CGI has, to a degree, evolved, still, there's a finish, there's a bit of a glossy finish on CGI characters that you don't get with an authentic puppet. And I like the grit and gristle and texture of a puppet, especially if if you don't need to make it jump all over the goddamn screen, and it's going to do what this one did, which is raise an arm here, drink soup there,
Eat a frog.
Eat a frog. Yeah. It's not doing complicated floor routines. It's just kind of hanging about. Then why not make it a puppet and give it that layer and texture that makes the whole series really seem a little bit more gritty? And I don't mean like grimdark like a DC movie. I mean just it makes this really fantastic environment seem that much more real. You know what I mean, David?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Physical is almost always better than CG, unless you have something that's basically impossible or uneconomic to do physically, then you kind of have to offset it with the CG.
Right.
And I think they use CG every so often for Baby Yoda, but yeah, it's CG and a puppet.
Yeah, maybe they might have used CG to put a little more emphasis and do a few more things they could, such as eating the frog. I mean, that one, they probably did a little more computer work to get it to look right. You know how much apparently that puppet costs? $5 million.
I remember Ben Bowder, when he was on Farscape, which was like a Jim Henson produced sci-fi series, he would joke that like the puppets that they were acting with were worth a lot more than he was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, quick question, Mark, has your little one demanded a Build-A-Bear Baby Yoda yet?
Neither one of them has even watched the show.
Are you going to show it to them?
Neither one of them... Look, one's interested in death matches, and the other one, I'm trying to get her to finish watching The Masked Singer so I can get it off my DVR.
Oh, God, she likes that crap?
She does!
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I suddenly feel more sympathy for you than when you told me you had to sit through Descendants 3 for her.
We had a gasp of a good time watching that. Yeah, I mean, they have passing interest in Star Wars, and I'm kind of gone past the point of sit down and fucking watch this with me because it becomes painful. I told this story the other night. Told my son that at the end of this death match that I was watching, someone's going to get hit by a car, and for 3 hours, that's all I heard about. When's the car coming out? When's the car coming out? So, and whatever things they're orbiting these days, for some odd reason, Baby Yoda hasn't floated into it. Just us middle-aged nerds. So
That's kind of interesting because you would think that Baby Yoda would be an instant draw for kids their age.
I think if you're naturally drawn to Star Wars, sure. If you're not chasing it, though, I don't know. Like I said, we have such a long tail of media distribution. You'd really have to pursue something for it to be in your face. It's very easy to miss stuff now.
So, question. What were your guys' experience or knowledge with the Mandalorians in general besides Boba Fett going into this series? How much did you really know about these people?
As we talked about earlier in the show, as near as I knew, everything that came before the Lucasfilm purchase was thrown out into the trash. So
The EU garbage.
yes. So whatever was written about the Mandalorians all came from pre-Disney purchase, and I don't think there's been a whole lot written about the Mandalorians post-purchase. So nothing?
Actually, one of the biggest influences on the Mandalorians has been through Star Wars Rebels, the CGI series. One of the characters is a Mandalorian. Her name and a female. Her name is Sabine. Originally, I was going to bring in a girlfriend who was going to guest with you guys, who is a Sabine cosplayer who made her armor from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah. Really impressive. She is a dedicated member of the 501st.
So to answer your question, then, A, it's been years since I've watched any of Rebels. B, I think I made it through half the first season.
I think there was also a Sabine in the Clone Wars. She was like the Queen of Mandalore, and I think like the character name was taken from like Sabine from what was that movie with Ewan McGregor? Moulin Rouge.
Rebels
that was
is
the love interest name, so that was sort of a little in joke where they named the character.
Rebels was post.
Right, Eddie?
Yeah, it's like Eddie's getting his 2 cents in there. Yeah.
Rebels was post purchase, wasn't it? I think it was like one of the
Clone
first.
Wars was pre.
Yeah, but they've
They have
retroactive.
characters from Clone Wars, in Rebels, so
I
I
was
guess
gonna
it is canon.
Yeah, I was going to say they retroactively grandfathered the Clone Wars series into canon, and then post that was Resistance, and now I think there's Rebels, and now I think there's another show called Resistance or some shit like that.
Yeah, which I think is canceled in second season, so who knows what they're going to make after this, but
Something else that begins with R. Anyway, you were saying, Alexis, the history of the Mandalorians.
Well, like I said, one of the things I did enjoy about the series was that they gave a little more knowledge about the Mandalorians without it, again, being too exposition-y. I think that one thing that the Star Wars fans are sick to death of, it is over-explaining everything. And I'm sorry, as much as anyone may defend the new trilogy, even that has fallen into, having that problem. This show is definitely more action with the story sprinkled throughout, and I love that.
So you watched the first episode. It seems like you were drawn into it. You get to the second episode, and one of the things David and I were talking about was the pace of the show. Not that the first one moved real fast, but the pace of the second episode was a crawl at best, which I liked about it. Because, as I was saying before, Star Wars in the 21st century, everything seems to move at a fucking rapid pace. Everything just feels like it's just running and very manic and anxious. And The Mandalorian, the pacing of the show is super slow, and things get time to breathe. Characters get time to kind of just mill about and sit still in front of the camera. And that, to me, is the big triumph of episode 2. It's literally, we got to get off the planet. Oh, shit, Jawa stripped my ship. Well, I got to get my stuff back. And then the Jawas say, well, if you want that, go beat up that rhinoceros and steal its egg. And that's it. That's the episode.
Does anyone else look when they break open the egg and just think to yourself, wow, Cadbury sunk to a new low?
Someone did do like a Facebook joke of like an ad for a Cadbury cream egg, and then they had like the Jawa going Tahiti or whatever the word for egg is.
There are two words in the Jawa language: yaga 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 and Tahiti.
Now, I hate to say it, the thing that killed me about the second episode was the scene when he's trying to negotiate with them and they're insulting his language. It's like, you speak Jawa like a Wookiee. And he's like, well, taste this, and hits him with a flamethrower. That was great.
Also, anyone else ever notice, like, every time he uses his flamethrower, it never goes his way?
Yes, we discussed that earlier about, he's not, as good as he is, he's not so good that he's invulnerable. You definitely get a sense of vulnerability with him that keeps you invested. And it's like, well, how's he going to get out of this one?
Well, you want that in a hero. I mean, how boring would this series be if he never, ever had any real problems?
Well, that would never happen in a Star Wars movie.
David, don't take me there. But
saying.
That's a lot of the writing now, and that's a lot of what people sometimes stupidly. That's what a lot of people want is they want all their characters to be Superman, and I don't know why, because that's a boring story. Let's move on to, so we were talking about chapter 3 here, and this is the one where he brings the kid finally to the client, and the scientists are doing experiments on him, and he comes back because he feels guilty and he doesn't want to leave the child in danger, so he goes against the bounty hunter cult, kills everybody in the room, steals the child back, and they go off and run. And this is the end of that first beginning arc that sets the rest of the season into motion. Let me go to you first, David. What did you think of this episode?
Tons of action, which was great. Like him breaking into the Imperial stronghold, and then the resulting fight with the bounty hunters afterwards, and a really great exercise in sort of non-verbal storytelling. Like, you just get so much of what's going through Din's mind just through things he sees. He walks out behind the stronghold and he sees, like, the crib that Baby Yoda was in, just tossed in the dumpster, and he goes, and like after he makes his decision to rescue Baby Yoda, you just you don't hear about them giving the order to hunt him down. You just see all the bounty fobs just blink, 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 blink all over the city, and you just know it's going down. Or the little joke that they did with Baby Yoda taking the ball off the end of the knob off the end of the lever in the cockpit, where he keeps on trying to take it back, and Baby Yoda will keep removing it again. And again, it's cute and funny, and then you get to, like, him getting back in his ship to go on his next adventure and seeing the ball's still not attached, and like not since Hugo Weaving in V for Vendetta has there been such a great performance without you able to see any part of the actor's head.
I was going to say I thought you were going in the direction of not since XYZ has there been such a great performance of a guy doing action stuff with a baby. I was like, I don't know, Jason Statham in the last Fast and the Furious movie, that was the best part of that whole thing.
Maybe, but I can't say one way or the other. And then you get to the very end of the episode where like he gets Baby Yoda's sitting next to him in the cockpit, and he just, like, unscrews the knob from the lever and hands it to Baby Yoda, and it's just you know exactly what's gone on with that character and their growth, and it's just it's brilliant. This isn't like we need him to all of a sudden take off his helmet and teary-eyed and just, like, puke out all of his emotional backstory in this one scene so that everyone in the audience knows. I mean, this is not an Alex Kurtzman show. Character arcs actually have things called beginnings and middles.
Yes. I have to say, I got to give all the credit in the world to Pedro Pascal, who plays our Mandalorian. It's not easy to act through makeup, let alone a fucking helmet that you never take off. But he is able to, using body language, the faintest of body language, able to elicit sympathy from the audience. I think he does. I think he's very, very good at being able to portray with head movements and shoulder movements that he is this stoic soldier character with this heart, and this ability to care for this child, and it's right there, it's right on that line. And it's a lot of actors can't do that. Like, they would have a hard time acting through the costume. But I think he does an exceptional job of that. What do you think, Alexis?
You guys nailed it absolutely. He gives so little dialogue, but you know exactly what he is thinking, and it is brilliantly done. Who else is excited to see Pedro Pascal play Max Lord in the new Wonder Woman movie?
I wasn't aware of that, but sounds good. Good
Yeah,
actor.
It's fine. I mean, yeah, like it says, he's doing a great job in this, so I'm sure he'll be fine in that. I'm reserving judgment at this point for that and for Birds of Prey before I say anything, because so far, but it could end up being wonderful. Both cases, they could end up being wonderful. So I'm just gonna go. I'll wait and see before I say anything. Anything else about Chapter 3, Alexis, before we move on?
It's a minor thing, but I like how you get a little more identity with the Mandalorian armor, the Beskar. I thought that was kind of cool how you think that that's just like kind of like gold or something, but to this creed, it's not money, it's the armor. You know, it's like it goes back into who he is as a person. I thought that was a really nice touch. And
And it blocks lasers.
I'm sorry?
And it blocks lasers. Like,
Oh.
it's like laser-proof armor,
Yeah.
which is probably why it's so valuable. And valued in warrior culture. Anyway, sorry, go on.
No, I really like how they designed the Mando before he gets the upgrade, so you can really see the evolution of his armor. Again, I just thought that was really cool. You know, costume designers for this pat themselves on the back. They did a great job.
All right, so the next 3 episodes make up our What Now arc. So we have 3 distinctly different episodes of the Mandalorian going on misadventures while he figures out what to do with this frickin' child. He can't go back to Carl Weathers, who, just as an aside, in these first 3 episodes, the little bit that we do get to see Carl Weathers, is it just me or did he give weird accent? Like, he talks in almost a very stilted, almost like he's trying to do, like the direction was, hey, sound pompous, I guess? Like, maybe Arthurian, except don't. And I don't know. I don't know if it was, like, his acting choice or weird direction from one episode to the next. But I like Carl Weathers, loved him in the Rocky movies. I'm one of those few people who saw Action Jackson. I just thought he gave a weird vocal performance in this. Am I crazy, or did anyone else pick that up?
I didn't notice anything, and after watching 1.5 seasons of Star Trek Discovery, like, I'm really good at recognizing stilted dialogue.
Did it rub you any kind of way, or it just wasn't even noticeable?
Sorry, Mark, I didn't notice it either. But I mean, he didn't sound like Apollo Creed or what's his character's name in Predator?
Damn it. What's the line of dialogue, David, where him and Schwarzenegger have the most awesome handshake ever? Dylan.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan, you son of a bitch. Slap. Yeah, he didn't sound like his previous characters, but I didn't think it sounded weird.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I was expecting a more normal dude voice to come out of him, because that's all he's ever done.
Yeah, his roles, he tends to sound very, you know, I'm tough, I know I'm tough, you know I'm tough, so, you know, flex the muscle. That's kind of the way he acts in his previous movies, which, to be fair, that's what those roles called for.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Carl Weathers has ever had a fantasy role to where he's had to change his voice up, and he might have gone a little overboard in trying to do something different, because I almost would have preferred, though, if he just used his normal speaking voice. It was weird to me. If it didn't jump out at you guys, that's fine. You know, we all kind of react to different things, but the whole damn series so far, every time he talked, I was like, wow, you sound so weird. Why do you sound weird?
Okay, now I gotta go watch Happy Gilmore again to see if he had an accent in that.
Just watch Rocky 3, it's fine. All right, so Chapter 4 is the one where we meet Gina Carano, who's the rebel shock trooper, And this is the one where David will know. David will recognize this from every Star Trek episode, where you have a village we're just simple farmers, but there's raiders in the distance, and we need and plot lines directly ripped off from Three Amigos. We need our heroes to protect the farmers in the villages from the raiders. Tale as old as time. So you have that one. You have the Gunslinger, which is where
it's more of a Seven Samurai copy,
Thank you.
with only two.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Well, I mean, I'm going to let you guys talk about all three of them. I just want to kind of do the quick plots for each one of these.
Yep. Go on. Yep.
So then you have the Gunslinger, which is where we meet the character, the actress who's on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who's a badass fighter Asian gal. She plays yet another criminal.
Ming-Na Wen.
Yes,
Voice of
Ming-Na Wen.
Mulan.
I'm struggling to remember how to pronounce her name.
Just call her Mulan.
Mulan.
Oh no, she's the voice actress for
Yes.
Mulan.
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't racist, people. That was accurate.
And you can add her at. Just kidding. So this is the one where there's a bounty on her, and we go to Tatooine because that's the center of the universe, apparently, in Star Wars. Everything must come back to Tatooine.
Yeah, the backwater planet that just seems to be important in, everything that happens in the galaxy.
Goddamn right. We get Bobby Cavanaugh's kid, who's trying to make a name for himself and is just making all kinds of bad decisions. So there's that whole thing, which ends in tears, but it's the whole point of the episode is to get him from, he's being pursued by bounty hunters who are still after the kid. His ship gets damaged. They land on Tatooine, and he's got to go do this job to pay the gal to fix the ship to get off the fucking planet. Moving on. Then you have The Prisoner, which is one of my favorite episodes of this whole season. Mainly because it has one of my favorite comedians in it, Bill Burr, who's not a Star Wars fan. Jim Norton, Bill Burr. They're the two best comedians on the planet. And I'm only saying that because Bill Burr is not a Star Wars fan. And yet he was happy to take this part. And he did a great job with it. The stuff where Bill Burr is trying to get Pedro Pascal to take the mask off and everything. He's like, come on, take your helmet off. Come on, we're all friends here.
The second best Stormtrooper joke in the series.
This is a great episode. This is the bit where him and this gang of criminals are going to rescue another criminal who's the brother of one of them, the Twi'lek in the group. But they're all shitty and they turn on each other and it's just mayhem. And it ends badly for all parties involved except our hero. So I'll go to you first, Alexis. Every single one of these really deals with the what am I supposed to do with this kid scenario and kind of solving a problem that he's having since deciding that he was going to hang on to the kid. And they handle it in different ways. You've got the save the villagers, you've got the get the bounty, and you've got the rescue the prisoner. Go.
Well, first of all, did you know that episode 4 was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard?
I did.
Oh, that was interesting. I've never known her to direct anything, so it's kind of cool to, see that she's got the chops, because I thought episode 4 was pretty good.
I feel like she has directed a couple of things. You keep going. I'm going to look it up.
Okay. I like that these 3 episodes almost felt like they could be plots for an entire series or an entire movie for itself. You kind of get the idea that they were sort of dipping their toes in different ideas and seeing what stuck and what worked. And frankly, I thought all 3 of the episodes were pretty good, even if they felt a little out of place, because again, it is the what am I supposed to do thing. It still worked. It still felt genuine to the character. I will also say that, hang on, I gotta look up the actress name. Amy Sedaris in episode 5. Holy crap, I did not recognize her at all. I thought that was actually really good. I know a lot of fans were upset that Ming-Na Wen didn't get more of a role in this series, because she was actually one of the actors that was when they first announced who was going to be appearing on the show. She was one of the actors that came up in the top billing, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, she's going to be in this series! It's going to be awesome!" I remember her character showing up early in a trailer, and she's in one episode, and then they kill her.
I have a sneaking. Well, no, she's not dead. you see somebody reaching down for her, and I believe she's alive. At the end of that episode, I have a sneaking suspicion she'll have more to do in the second season, and they were just sort of holding that card close to vest.
Well, maybe. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if she comes back. But yeah, like I know a lot of people are like, "What? She's not gonna stay till the end of the season or something," because she has such a fan following. It's crazy. And did anyone else feel like the whole Prisoner Escape episode felt like a video game? Tell me I'm not alone in that.
I was so caught up in Bill Burr's dialogue and delivery that I didn't care.
No,
it is kind of like a corridor shooter, so I guess there's that.
Not gonna lie, I thought the twist at the end of episode 6, where you find out where the beacon is. Oh my God, Andre and I watched that, and we were cheering. We thought that was brilliant. Really love that. But again, these felt like it was interesting that these 3 storylines felt like they could be either a whole series or a whole movie in and of themselves. And again, these are stories that we have seen before. The village that needs help, the team up that goes badly, the prisoner escape where you find out that you're about to be betrayed. No.
I mentioned to David, I think Star Wars works best when you have the girders of a tried and true theme, trope, or story, and you just dress it in Star Wars clothes.
Yeah, except when you do Force Awakens, because then the fans complain, you just dress Star Wars in Star Wars.
Well,
I mean, they kind of did.
Well, you don't want to be... The point is to take something that's not dressed in Star Wars and dress it in Star Wars. Not be Joey from Friends in that one episode. That joke would have worked fine with my wife. Neither one of you has ever watched Friends?
Yeah, but I don't have every episode memorized. I haven't watched it, like, ad nauseum.
So Ross is getting an award, right? And he's trying to get all of his friends out the door to go see him win this award. And he gets into a fight with Rachel, and she puts her pajamas on. And over on the other side, you've got Joey and Chandler, and they're fighting because Joey borrowed something of Chandler's that he wasn't supposed to. So then Joey goes across the hall, and he comes back, and he's wearing all of Chandler's clothing. And isn't that funny, white people? Let's move on.
I was never socially competent enough to understand Friends.
Alexis, anything else about these 3 episodes?
It worked better when they remade it with nerds. It's like, okay, I see what this is now.
I think it made my point, but again, I will go back to saying great job with the practical makeup. Seeing the Twi'leks looked really good, even though I love Natalie Tenya. She's a great actress, but she just looks scary as hell as a Twi'lek.
All right. Our last 2 episodes... Did I not call
my throat there?
Did I not call on you first? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I got the first round last round.
Is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah. So, yeah, by the end of the 3rd episode, I figured out that, okay, we're doing the Lone Wolf and Cub thing here. So for those of you who don't know by this point, so Lone Wolf and Cub is a Japanese comic series where it's basically about this samurai that was the head sword master to the shogun, the sort of ruling general of Japan at the time, which is it's a lofty position in the government. There's this other clan called the Yagyu. They want to get one of their people in that position, so they basically frame him for trying to assassinate the shogun or something like that. So he's made an outlaw, and he runs away, taking his son. I think his wife died, in the past, and he takes his son, and he now wanders Japan with his son in this sort of like James Bondified baby cart, which has all sorts of hidden weapons inside of it, and he works as an assassin. So like every chapter, he's in a different place. He's been given a different job with a different story as to what's going on, and they pay him his set fee. They have to explain to him the story behind why they want this person dead, so we, the audience, understand the situation. And a story happens. Meanwhile, in the background, he's being pursued by assassins from the Yagyu and trying to gather evidence to sort of bring them down from the inside. So here we have Din and Baby Yoda traveling the galaxy, pursued by the bounty hunters and the ex-Imperials, so he can never stay in one place any longer, and be creating all these situations for various stories to be told. So I was like, okay, I get what this is doing now. And and then we start off with basically doing Seven Samurai with Gina Carrere and just an ATST. Isn't it just great that they just use one ATST, and just like the idea of what one of those things can do to people who aren't equipped to deal with one? Like, I even like the little detail that they have, like the bandits have like painted it up with like a scary face on it. Just, again, it's nothing said, but it just really fleshes out that this is sort of our post, Galactic Civil War world, and that's a pretty standard story.
It does make you wonder how crappy the ATSTs were that the Ewoks were able to take them down.
That's kind of what I kept on thinking. It's like, guys, just like hit it with some trees or something, and like they'll just fold up. Like, these things aren't that hard to.
Well, not for nothing, but if you slam a giant redwood, the trunk of a giant redwood into a tank, you're gonna damage the tank to one degree or another when you have it swinging in an arc.
Yeah. Anyway, let's not do physical or like physics equations on
really?
On the battle door there.
We don't want to talk about we don't want to talk about the rust ratio on the various Imperial machines.
Robert's not here, Mark. Robert's not here.
Mark, go smoke a bowl of Grey Babe.
Look,
we haven't brought that out in a while. I thought it was time to bring that back.
Yeah. So as for probably the weakest episode, I thought was like the junior bounty hunter that Din has to shepherd and eventually turns with him. Though to be honest, I thought the guy looked a lot like Hayden Christensen. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Nice, Bobby Cavanaugh's kid, Jake Cavanaugh.
I actually looked to see did they get Hayden Christensen to do a cameo or something? It's like, oh no, apparently a different guy. Once we got to the jailbreak episode, that was probably my favorite episode of the entire season. Like, just the way that they set it up with the team coming together and sort of, their banter back and forth with Din, and then when they find Baby Yoda and start, sort of being a bit more menacing, you're like, these guys are such a bunch of jerks. Like, I cannot wait for Din eventually just come and, murder the lot of them. And you just get tension, and then you just get this beautiful release where they turn on him, he escapes, and just like the brilliance of just like the fights that they had there, like the bit where he's got Bill Burr in the hallway and the lights flickering, and you just see, like Din approaching him each time the light flickers. He turns around and he's gone. One more flicker and boom, right behind him. Just like, you know exactly what's going to happen like a second before it happens, but it's still so satisfying.
Yeah, I enjoyed these 3 episodes because I think once you had your premise set up in the first 3 episodes, it was nice to see that premise with different obstacles, and dependable storytelling. So I liked all of that. One thing about Gina Carano, she was great in Deadpool because she had a very limited speaking role, and Gina Carano is best when she is able to use her best asset, which is her physicality. She's the tenor of her voice doesn't lend itself to big dramatic performances. She has kind of a flat voice, and I think she still struggles with some of her line readings. She does a fine enough job with this series. Not a lot is asked of her in terms of dramatic performance.
She's a shock trooper.
Yeah,
you're not going to be reading Hamlet. It's basically grunting and basic stuff.
Yeah, it's we need you to be a kick-ass soldier, and she does her level best to do that, and I think she's largely successful. And she's good in dialogue scenes. She's good in small doses. I think she actually, like, her facial reactions to things, I think are actually pretty good. I just think she struggles with talking, basically. But when she has to do something physical, I mean, that's how she's managed to transition from MMA to acting. Is she's a very physical presence. She's big. She's a good sized gal. I actually wanted to see if they would test her out as Wonder Woman at one point, because I mean, because at the time, I didn't think Gal Gadot was going to do a great job. I've since turned on that, but I liked that episode. The Gunslinger was fine. It was one of those where not that I didn't like it. It was just fine. I think the best part of that is Jake Kavanaugh. I think he gives a fun performance. And I love The Prisoner mostly because of Bill Burr. All right. If there's nothing else,
he was a sharpshooter, not a stormtrooper.
We have our last arc here, which is made up of 2 parts to this long story, which is essentially the final face-off between the Imperial client and our heroes, and there's a betrayal and then a redemption for Carl Weathers' character. You have a standoff. You have Baby Yoda doing Force things. This whole thing has been sort of this religious commitment to never taking off the helmet, but because he nearly has his head blown off, he has to. We have a lot of fun stuff with IG-80 being
11.
the net and whatever, being that Steve the robot, as I've decided to call him, who's nursemaiding Baby Yoda. That was a lot of fun stuff.
That's freaking hilarious that he was ready to kill Baby Yoda without hesitation in the first one. Now he's been reprogrammed as a nurse.
Yep. But the highlight of this entire season is Jason Sudeikis, who was punching Baby Yoda? Oh, I laughed hard at that.
All over the world, you could hear a simultaneous cry of, "You bastard!"
Not me, sister. I laughed heartily, and I was like half asleep through some of this. But
I screamed. I actually screamed, like, "You fucker!" I was like, God, someone kill this man.
I mean, the whole conversation around him, between the 2 biker troopers, and then you hear Baby Yoda making noises. He just punches the fucking baby. Oh, how I laughed! I laughed!
I laughed hard when you realize that, yep, it's true. Stormtroopers can't shoot.
Yeah. You can punch a baby in a satchel, but you can't hit a can that's 15 feet away from you.
Sure. We have an appearance by Giancarlo Esposito, who was recently playing a role on Adam Clayton Powell on Godfather of Harlem, which I highly recommend.
Although most of us, when he stepped out of the ship, we all went, crap, Gus Fring is here. Everyone run. Yes,
man from Breaking Bad as well. But he was the boss above the boss, as it were. He's our big Imperial guy who becomes the main villain in all of this. So, Alexis, these last 2 episodes, go.
I mean, besides the fact of me screaming at Jason Sudeikis for punching Baby Yoda, because I did scream. I actually yelled, "You bastard!" No, okay, what did you guys laugh at harder? The punching the baby or do the wavy hand thing?
Punching a baby.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I love that Carl Weathers is trying to get Baby Yoda to do the Force, and he's like, "Do the wavy hand thing," and Yoda just waves, and he's like, "We're dead."
It was very cute.
It was very cute. Again, we get some really great backstory on Mando. I love how this is actually the episode where they explain that Mando isn't really a race; it's a creed. It's kind of a religion, in a way. And I love that they explain that not every one of them follows the same rules on the whole can't take your helmet off thing. Because, again, if you followed EU or Sabine in Rebels, you know that, not every Mandalorian keeps their helmet on all the time.
Alignment-wise, true neutral paladins or lawful neutral paladins?
Ooh, damn, that's a hard one.
I think it depends what era.
This guy.
I say lawful good.
Lawful good?
Or lawful neutral, that's what I meant, sorry.
I was going to say, wait, we now have to stop the podcast and go look these things up. No. Yeah, I'm kind of caught. David, what do you think? Lawful neutral or true neutral paladin?
Ooh, not a big D&D guy, so let's see here. Lawful good or neutral? I mean, he does save the baby, which is kind of good, but yeah, it seems overall he tends to be more of a neutral guy.
Yeah, I was going to say true neutral.
Maybe he's like neutral before Baby Yoda and like good after Baby Yoda. If that makes any sense.
I think you can
Okay,
be.
yeah, maybe lawful neutral first, and then true neutral by the end of it. You know,
Well,
he evolves to true neutral.
Well, my understanding of lawful neutral is you always follow your alignment is Switzerland, but you tend to follow the laws and rules of your immediate setting. Whereas I think neutral is you're not getting involved in anything, and you're sort of just up the middle, whatever the conflict is, and that's why I think this, and the whole reason I brought this up, I think this group of Mandalorians comes across as a true neutral paladin group. That seems to be the image that they're going for. At least that was my interpretation.
Well, it's implied that there was like some imperial occupation of Mandalore, and they basically did like a mass sort of extinction or genocide of the culture. So now they're all just kind of hiding and just trying to like
that's right.
get
That's
back
when
on their feet.
That's when I started making the Mandalorians or the Space Jews in this series. That's right. That's where I got that from. Because you're not the first person to tell me to bring that to my attention, and that was my immediate thought. The Mandalorian.
It's like the theory is like, for like the Mandalorians that we see in Rebels, this was before like the Great Culling, so they were probably a bit more culturally open and different. Whereas now, after going through this, big horrible event, they've probably gone a bit more conservative, back onto like the more hardline culture/religion aspects of themselves.
I'm being somewhat facetious, but I mean that's always been the explanation of the Jewish tradition, is that this started out as a race of people, but kicked out of their homeland and forced to wander the desert, it became more of a religion than a race, and now that's pretty much all it's known as. But so yes, Mandalorian, Space Jews. Moving on. Anything else, Alexis, on these last two episodes?
I'm sorry, my brain derailed when you started talking Space Jews. It takes me a second to get back.
Hey,
you need to reboot.
Mel Brooks did make that movie.
Space
Jews.
They're
Jews. They're Jews in space.
Yes. History of the World Part 2.
Well, sorry, I know you just started rambling, and I'm like, wait, I think we've just officially derailed from the conversation. What?
No, I'm making valid points, which just because you can't follow me doesn't mean I'm not brilliant. Anyway.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the ending of episode 8 then, if we're on these two episodes.
Yes, ma'am.
Who here knew about the black lightsaber?
I did a little bit.
I had to read up on it.
Yeah, I think it's called the Dark Saber, but yeah, it's like
That's
a
what it is.
big deal in like Mandalorian history. It was like the Mandalorian Jedi's lightsaber, I think.
It was owned by the first Mandalorian who became a Jedi, yes. And it since had a very bloody history.
Where are you getting
For
this
starters,
from?
the moment that most Star Wars fans found out there was a Mandalorian that was a Jedi, they probably orgasmed to death.
Probably. What bit of post-Disney canon are you pulling this from?
The articles that got shared on Facebook for at least 20 times a day for the solid week after this episode aired.
I think it was introduced on Rebels. I think that was where
I believe you're
that
right.
was the MacGuffin that they had to get for that story arc.
Okay. Yeah,
Stop
I don't
the bad Mandalorian from getting the dark saber and uniting the peoples. Instead, have the good Mandalorian get the dark saber and unite the peoples and prevent war.
You answered my question, David. To Alexis, yeah, I don't read any of that garbage.
No, I'm sorry. It kind of reminded me of the mid-credits singer in the first Avengers movie when Thanos first appeared, because so many people had a passing knowledge of the comic books but had no clue who Thanos was.
Right.
And it just kind of felt like this was going to be a huge springboard for people to start getting more involved and interested in Star Wars. Not to mention, I'm willing to bet that the viewership for Star Wars Rebels skyrocketed after this, because now people are saying, oh, what's that? Oh, it was introduced in Rebels? Okay, let's go watch Rebels.
So
Also available on Disney+.
So at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, the movie, they do a stinger for the next movie, which is Apocalypse. And there's a guy. He's in a robe. He's doing shit in the desert with sand and blocks and whatnot. And I remember walking out of the theater, and and I'm walking slow. People are passing me, and I'm hearing people going, "Who the fuck is that?" at the end of that thing. It's a very similar thing. Like if you're just kind of going to the movies, a lot of these references just get lost on people, and they're not going to Google to find out who's the guy in the cloak, what kind of sword is he holding, where are my pants. None of that's happening.
It's like Bob Chipman sort of said that movie Bob, he kind of got the reputation as like the nerdy film critic. So whenever he went to like the prestige screenings of the comic book movies, and after the stinger, just everyone would get up and instantly turn to him, waiting for him to explain, what was that thing we just saw?
Yeah, it's good stuff for the people who are deep into it and follow it, but for the vast majority of the audience are like, wait, what? I guarantee you, non-Star Wars fans, if they watched this series and they saw him pull that sword out at the end, just went, oh, he's got himself a lightsaber. Good for him.
Yeah. It's like he's still alive and he has a lightsaber. Okay, this ups the stakes.
and now on to The Witcher.
What did you guys think about the idea that these characters really didn't know what the Jedi were or what the Force were? The armor talks about the Jedi who used to be the Mandalorian enemies eons ago, and the idea that you look at the prequel trilogy where the Jedi are very well known throughout the galaxy, and now the Jedi have kind of become something of a myth. And even with Luke Skywalker, taking out the Empire and helping to restore freedom to the galaxy, the Jedi are still not that well known. These guys are saying like these were. It's like they're just a myth. They're a legend. That the Force isn't real.
I'm fine with it because my wife and I are 7 years apart, and whenever I bring up Nirvana, she's like, I knew they were a thing. I have no idea what you're talking about, though. And
also keep in mind we're on like the outer rim of the galaxy, so we're not really dealing with central galactic politics and whatnot.
I mean, look, the story takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, which is 20 some odd years after the end of the prequels. It's fine. Like I said, that's why I brought up the Nirvana thing. 20 to 30 years pass, the average person, the average contemporary person isn't going to know a lot of details about a thing from 20, unless they've looked it up, about a thing from 20 to 30 years ago. And to the point that if you're talking about just strictly about what happened in Star Wars, they made a point of killing all the Jedi and kind of burying it and like, oh, never talk about this again. So
yeah, this is before Luke is probably rebuilding the Jedi Order, and Kylo Ren then subsequently kills them. Because who wants to watch a movie about like a new Jedi Order?
Well, we've already done that. We're not going down that rabbit hole again.
Well, here's the thing: we don't know what Luke was doing. I will tell you that yes, Return of the Jedi ends with the Death Star blowing up, and and after several restarts and re-edits and whatnot, there's fireworks and celebration all over the galaxy. We got it, George. But I think it was established somewhere along the line. I think in the Aftermath books, the Empire still was running wild for a while. And it's entirely possible Luke got nothing accomplished in 5 years because they were still mopping up various Imperial warlords and shit. So who knows?
That would make a really interesting story. I know. Let's just redo the original movies again.
I'm mostly just shut up. I'm also just find it interesting that so many of the Star Wars canon stories that we have had in the past have always focused on the Jedi, the lightsabers, the Force. And here we have Baby Yoda who uses the Force, but the Jedi and the Force are not the main folks of the story. In fact, to our main characters, they're just kind of past mythologies. They're old legends. I thought that was a really interesting way to look at this storyline because so many people, the first image that they have when they think Star Wars is a Jedi with a lightsaber.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking before you came on was, this very much feels like people who are very passionate about the finer points of Star Wars, and, and wanted to focus on things that don't always get a lot of attention. Dave, what did you think of these last 2 episodes?
Yeah, pretty good. I thought like all through the series, I was kind of wondering because you look on the posters and you see there's the Mandalorian in the foreground, and then you have IG-11 and Gia Carrera's character and the Ugnaught all on there, and but all these characters have only really been on for 1 episode each, so this is the point where it's oh, okay, so they introduce these characters, now he's getting the band together to go and sort of deal with this sort of final showdown situation, and so it was kind of nice to see that come together. The bit where they kill off the Ugnaught character, that was just that was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
because this was a guy who had no aspirations really in the galaxy. He just kind of wanted to live a simple life on his own. He just kind of wanted he was a do the right thing simple person, and now he's kind of mixed up in these greater events, and it ends up killing him. And you just kind of think damn, what a shame. He didn't ask for this. He was just trying to be a good person.
Not to mention, you get a new meme with "I have spoken."
Oh yeah.
Oh please. I've been doing that since Tron in the 80s. End of line.
End of line. Yeah.
And more recently with Peter Griffin.
Mark?
Huh?
Do you fight for the users, Mark?
No, I fight for master control. I'm basically a fascist. Anyway, moving on. That's a joke, everybody. So overall, I put on. Now's the time that I got to explain this, and we're just going to go around the bend with final thoughts here. I'm going to go first just and get this out of the way. It is an absolutely competent, straightforward, joyful, interesting, well-performed series. Why did I say it was fine? Despite everyone's oh my god, it's so good. I think this benefits from how negative people felt towards the sequel trilogy, and just the fact, and so this it's almost grading on a curve to where if you take Star Wars post Disney as a whole and you take the things that are competent versus the things that were not done competently, people appreciate the competent stuff that much more, and it gets exalted instead of really measured for what it is. It's fine. This isn't The Watchmen. The Watchmen was amazing television. The Watchmen spoke to the nature of man, and it was extremely well acted, and there was a lot of great stuff going on. And if you want to hear all that, Alexis and I talked about it last week on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, currently in the archives. Mark your check bingo cards, everybody. The Wire is a well-written, just Shakespearean tragedy set in the urban atmosphere. That is great television. Breaking Bad, The Sopranos, for the most part, from what I've been told. These are examples of great television. This is fine. Why can't it just be fine? It's an adventure show based on a lot of familiar and wonderful things, done well by competent filmmakers. Let's not get insane. I have spoken. Alexis, your final thoughts, madam.
I'm sorry, I'm going to give you a minute to climb off your soapbox.
No!
Yes, the show is fine, but frankly, I don't have any complaints with it. Yes, it doesn't have the, brilliant writing that we got with Watchmen or, The Wire. I'll take your word for it. I've actually never watched an episode of The Wire.
And how dare you besmirch its name?
But this is a show that I can't find anything to complain about. I really can't. Every Friday, Andre and I got excited to watch this. He occasionally works Fridays from home, so we'd grab lunch and we'd just, curl up on the couch and we'd watch this together. And we loved it. And so many things just made us cheer out loud. Again, I mentioned the twist at the end of the episode, The Prisoner. Oh my God, we loved watching that. The action scenes, terrific. The costumes and the makeup, exemplary. The practical effects. Holy crap, I thought Star Wars forgot how to do those.
It lacks gravitas.
Okay, for the sake of the argument, I need you to define gravitas.
All right, how can I best say this without having repeated everything I just said?
I don't know, but Eddie's demanding it.
Let me shift over to David for a second while I compose my thoughts, because I don't want there to just be like 20 minutes of silence while I try to figure out how to say this. Go ahead, David. Go ahead and do your final thoughts here.
I got nothing.
You bastard.
Okay, just kidding. But I mean, yeah, like it's not. I wouldn't call it a great show, but it is at the very least a good show. Like it's solid. Like Alexis says, like, everything is good in it. It's well written, well acted. Like the props are good, the costumes are good, the special effects are really good for especially for something that would be considered like television level. And yeah, like it's the stories are entertaining. It's something that you always look forward to each week. Does it offer immense insight into man's relation to God and his inhumanity towards man and whatever other deep philosophical things or political issues? No. But it doesn't have to be. Like, it's good at what it is, and I think I like how instead of kind of reaching for a big and epic right now, let's just get the basics done. Let's do meat and potatoes, good fantasy storytelling in the Star Wars universe, and maybe once Disney has sort of done a few more of these and kind of got a bit more of a feel for what works and what doesn't, then maybe they can sort of take this and then do something big and epic and with a lot to say in it. And I think that's kind of it's good for now for what it needs to be.
Okay, but I think but that's the thing. You're both saying a lot of what I said.
Yeah.
But you're couching it in this like, but that's all it needed to be. I'm not saying this needed to be serious and, asking a lot of its audience and turning things on its head. I'm fine with this being the Incredible Hulk series. That's what it is. It's a guy on a journey, and every week he, there's a new problem he's got to deal with, and he's got a thing going on with him, and by the end of the episode, it's resolved, and he moves on to the next thing. Like, the Incredible Hulk didn't have a tremendous amount of gravitas either. It was on for several seasons because it captured people's imaginations, and it had the problem of the weak structure to it, which is a lot of what this is, and it's fine. I think where I'm banging my head against the wall is and I struggle with this a lot, is people, most people really, I haven't heard anyone say they didn't like The Mandalorian. And going from, I like it, it's the best thing on television, those two different things.
Well, I think a lot of it is we now live in the internet age and the social media age where everything is either the greatest thing ever or the worst thing ever. Nothing is allowed to be okay. So
there you go.
If you say something is okay or even good, you're going to get it from both sides, because it's, how dare you say this thing is good? It's the most horrible thing in the history of forever. Or, what do you mean you don't like this thing? It's the best thing ever. Like, it's good. Like, that's it.
Right.
I enjoyed it.
But I am
changed my life, but it was good.
But goddammit, I am Mark Radulich, and I am okay with things being fine, and I will not be a slave to things that are either the best or the worst ever.
I wish Star Trek was fine.
It would be a major improvement.
It would be.
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that multiple things are the greatest things ever. Why can't we say that both Watchmen and The Mandalorian are the greatest things ever? They're just two different shows. You're
not wrong. Hang on, you're not wrong. And if this were, if this had the seriousness and the examination of the human experience that a show like Watchmen or Wire or Breaking Bad did, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'm hammering that distinction between something that is well done versus something that is a higher order of entertainment. Neither of which are bad things.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like, you know, the divide between Star Trek and Star Wars. Star Trek has kind of always, before Alex Kurtzman got involved, been more like sort of thoughtful, you know, ruminations on humanity, you know, with the odd space battle thrown in. And Star Wars is more just like, oh yay, big fun space adventure with laser swords.
And to look,
and both are good.
To Alexis's point, if she's like, you know, if I watched 10 things in a row and I enjoyed this the most, I just thought this was the best thing out of all the stuff I watched, that's valid. And we get into this on Damn You Hollywood a lot, that distinction between subjective and objective criticism. You know, I like it is obviously vastly different from, here are all the things that make this better, the same, or worse than some of the things that have been accepted as the best, the middle, the worst. Does that make sense?
Were you talking about my point or Eddie's point? Because I'm currently trying to shut him up.
David, you with me?
I will say that, you know, like, pretty much criticism of the arts is pretty much subjective. I will bring up, you know, like Mike Stoklasa's mini review of The Martian, where pretty much all he hated the movie, and all of his reasons for hating the movie were pretty much the exact same reasons why I loved it.
I don't remember if he said it was bad, though. I want to say he said objectively it was a well-made movie. He just wasn't entertained by it.
Opinion.
All right, this we could go for another hour, talking about the nature of criticism.
Yeah. But yeah, whether or not something is good or bad is a subjective opinion. Like that's just it. So, you know, like, I don't understand why people thought the Transformers movies were good enough for us to get 5 of them, but somehow they did.
It always comes back to the Transformers on this network.
Well, Venom's getting a sequel.
Whose fault is
Oh,
that? Yeah.
God. All right. Plugs.
I had to say something.
Yeah.
All right. This is a fight I will continue to keep fighting, but just to put a period on this and end our lovely discussion here. If people enjoyed this and thought this was, of all the things they've watched recently, some of the best stuff ever, I'm happy for them. It did not move me that way. Fair enough?
Yeah, I don't think I felt very moved by the show, but I enjoyed it. I was entertained, which is the number one thing I look for in my entertainment, for some strange reason.
I can't really say if I was moved by the show or not, besides screaming at Jason Sudeikis for punching Baby Yoda. But this is a show that, excuse me, I got excited for. This is a show I love talking about with my friends.
Yep.
You know, one that, again, you know, it's like, oh, the new episode's on. Let's pop some popcorn and watch. And it's been a while since I've had a show that got me that excited. I mean, I hate to say it, I think, you know, the second to last season of Game of Thrones was that. Got me that excited, got me that, you know, into a series.
Oh,
so
wait till you watch Green Eggs and Ham. I bet you're going to get excited for that.
Which do you want me to watch first, Green Eggs and Ham or His Dark Materials?
Well, considering Green Eggs and Ham is going to be first,
That's what I thought.
Well, I will not watch Green Ends of Ham. I will not watch it, Mark Radulich. Oh, darn it, just doesn't work.
By the way, you want an example of science fiction with gravitas? Lost in Space. Right, Dave?
Yeah, I'm still making my way through second season.
Yeah, I'm going to start. I got to do The Witcher first, and then I'll start on that one.
Yeah,
but
or Battlestar Galactica, if we're talking about gravitas and science fiction. The new Battlestar.
Game of Thrones from the fantasy genre, that had gravitas. Till the end. I'm trying to think of just a couple of other ones. I brought those up because we're going to be talking about them shortly. Tomorrow night we're going to review the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths. Boy, is that an example of it's fine. It was fun. I had an Alexis Hejna internet fucking squee moment when a certain character from a parallel universe showed up in the show. Well, I guess I can do spoilers. People have already seen it. When fucking Ezra Miller showed up as the Flash from the
and the internet would explode.
Oh my god, my pants were both tight and wet by the time that was over. It was fantastic.
How often you say, "Where are my pants?" I just assume you don't wear pants anymore.
Not if I can help it.
Well, the flaw of that logic is you're assuming that he ever did.
Well, I gotta go to work occasionally, and they prefer when I wear pants. Listen.
Fascists.
Exactly. My kind of people. All right. We're running in circles like Eddie here, so let's move this along. As I said, tomorrow night we're doing our very, 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 very last show on my individual Radulich and Broadcasting Network feed. For if you are currently subscribed here and you want to continue to get the show, whatever
we haven't scared you off yet.
Oh, at this point, if you're still listening, you're committed religiously. If you, and I'm serious here, if you are currently subscribed to this show and want to keep hearing our shows, whatever podcast app you're using, go search. You can do this right now. Search WTM. You'll see big red W, teal 2, red M, black background. And you'll start to see my shows plus the other WTM network shows that are on there. That's all one feed now. It's currently available. That's where everything's going. Me and Sean Garmer's WTM network are fully merged as one single podcast feed. There is not going to be any two separate feeds anymore. We're done with that. Moving on up. So tonight is our second to last show. Tomorrow night when we review Crisis on Infinite Earth, that is the very last thing you're going to hear on this feed, and then everything is going over there, including these shows. These shows will be there as well. But I would implore anyone listening to this who gets our weekly feed, WTM, where everywhere you can find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Deezer, Bullhorn, Podcast Addict, you name it, we're there. I promise you, we're there right now as we speak. All right, that's the only plug I've got. David, what do you got going on?
Well, I think I will toss a coin to The Witcher at the end of the month when we do that one. And I believe you also have me for Lost in Space Season 2, I think in February, is that right?
Oh, wait,
you've gone over the date.
You're jumping on The Witcher too? There's like 97 people on that show. That's
okay, well, we'll see. Well, we were supposed to have like 5 tonight.
Yeah, true. We're like a horror movie. We show up with there's like 10 people wanting to be on our show, and by the end of it, the monster has killed everyone.
I still feel bad that I missed the first half of the show.
That's the
first quarter. If it makes you feel any better.
Our TV party for The Witcher on Netflix is Thursday, January 30th, is when we're recording. So, just if you're on it, you're on it. Fantastic. If not, it's fine. But that's when it's happening.
Yeah. Well, there might be some changes in my personal life coming up, so my availability might be a bit shifty around then. But we'll see.
And then you and I are doing a Lost in Space for a TV party for Lost in Space Season 2 on February 4th.
Okay, I'll do my best to be available for that.
Yes, sir.
I should probably start by watching the show.
That might help. Alexis will be on for the Birds. We're going to do a TV party for the old Birds of Prey TV series. That was one season on the CW, I think it was. And that's going to be February 13th. Are you coming on for the Damn You Hollywood for that?
Yeah, you need the one female voice on this network for that.
Terrific.
It's a job that only you can do, Alexis.
So, Alexis...
Yeah, talk about, oh joy, more Harley Quinn.
So, she'll be back on February 11th for Damn You Hollywood Birds of Prey, and then the TV party for Birds of Prey. She graciously agreed to talk about that with me because I wanted to fit that into the week. And then she'll be back for Sonic the Hedgehog, and then Green Eggs and Ham. Yes, sir. We're going to talk about that on February 27th. So those are those plugs. Alexis Hejna.
We're going to need to light a candle for all of those poor animators that worked themselves into oblivion reanimating Sonic and then got fired.
We will do an in memoriam.
Yeah.
I think just all the animators in general on that film.
Okay, no, my plugs. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, intersection of geek and chic. We are still currently in our off season. We're not going to start coming back to the convention circuit until March when we attend Planet Comic-Con. I just got news today that Brett Spiner and Christopher Eccleston are going to be guests of honor at that show. So,
Ooh.
Star Trek and Doctor Who fans. Of course, we do still have our online stores at Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We are always putting in new merch. I've been working on some new pieces for the last few weeks, and including getting some more stuff made for Level 1 Game Shop here in Kansas City. They are selling our merchandise now, including our wire wrap dice and our video game cartridge keychains. So I've been working myself into oblivion, trying to get more keychains made. That's part of the reason why I fell asleep and missed the first half of the show, because in between getting my house clean and making all those, I realized, hey, I haven't slept. Conk. And of course, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, folks, thanks for listening to our somewhat protracted discussion of The Mandalorian. It was fun. Always enjoy hanging out with David and Alexis. Again, go into your podcast app or whatever you're listening to podcasts and search WTM, and you will find all of our shows, including this one. This feed will be dead as of Friday, January 17th, so keep that in mind. And if you've just tuned in for the first time and don't ever want to hear us again, I don't blame you. So with that said, for Alexis Hejna of Honeysuckle Rose Creations, for David Wright, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.
We have spoken.
Hey you! Are you ready? Grab your pack, grab your tent, grab your gear. Jump in. We're going on an adventure. In Arizona, there's so much to see, so much to experience. At GCU, adventure is never too far away. Offering over 200 academic programs with a Christian worldview and nestled in the heart of Phoenix, you can earn your degree in fewer than 4 years and explore everything Arizona has to offer. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu/AZRoadtrip.